Welcome to your D131 to exercise 17. And I'm going to review this for people who were not in class. Now in class we did it with Photoshop. We're not going to use Photoshop since I'm doing it for people who can do it at home. The finished product is going to be in Gravit. So we did use Gravit as our layout program right now, just to kind of ease into things. Now this is the finished product that I'm looking at right now. And this is just an example. We just kind of did some workflow using my images and using my logo, and even my headline, which I came up with, is Real Beef Tonight. That's the postcard here, and it's 6 by 4 1/4. So our finished size is 6 inches wide by 4 1/4 high, and we're going to do 2 pages in Gravit eventually. And the back is going to basically be the back of a postcard. We'll put a return address, we'll put some little coupon there, kind of inviting people to take this postcard out and get a discount for Burger Barn, which just moved into town. And of course, you want to go there and get some real beef tonight. Or at least that's my slogan for now. And the idea is we're going to make a composite of some kind of burger or whatever it is. We're going to put a farm in the background. It's not a great farm, but we'll start with that now. This is just practice to go over some workflow. And in class we used Photoshop. We can use Photopea if you're doing it online. So I'll go over that now. Now if you go back to my Warren, this is the exercise 17 Burger Barn postcard workflow. And there's 2 images that we're going to composite in Photoshop or Photopea. It should work the same way. And then this is also a link to logos if you just want to use my logo. Eventually you're going to use your logo and make your design and use your images, but this is just kind of workflow practice. So let's get started. Now what we're going to do, if you don't have Photoshop, you can just go to Photopea. So I'll just go to photopea.com, and the nice thing is you don't have to log in, you don't have to create an account. Just go to photopea.com, and we're going to make a new document in Photopea. So I'm going to go over here to File and go to New, and we're not going to use pixels, we're going to use inches. So I'm going to make it the size we want as a finished product. Now I'm not putting any bleed in it, meaning typically if you have a postcard that bleeds, that means the ink will go right to the edge. And usually what they'll do, or what they'll always do, is they'll print maybe 1/8 of an inch off the edge and then trim it down to 6 by 4 1/4. But we're just going to run it right to the edge for now. We're not going to worry about a bleed right now. So we'll just make it 6 inches wide by 4 1/4, which is 4.25 high. And for resolution, for print, for high resolution print, we should use 300 dpi, or in Photoshop that would be ppi, but either way it's the same thing for now. So we'll just put in 300, and we could leave a white background for now, and I'm going to hit create. And we can name our file in Photopea by going here, and instead of new project we'll just call it 17, and I'll put dash barn, Burger Barn BG, because that's all we're doing here is the background. And you don't have to put PSD. It'll use PSD when you're creating a PSD, and it'll add JPEG when we want to make a JPEG. So we'll hit OK. And we don't have anything in here right now, and if I zoom out, what we have is this is the canvas size. And that means we could bring in a bigger image and use the canvas to kind of crop it off, and that makes things a lot easier. So this is our finished size. It's in our correct size, our correct resolution, and our correct color mode, which right now is RGB, and that's what we would do in Photoshop as well. So we're going to bring in a background image first. So where I'm going to do that is go to Red Barn on a Farm. And I'll click on that, and this is just from the web. And as I look at it, it's not a really great looking farm. It's a little run down, but that'll work for now. So I'm going to just copy it. So I'm just going to right click and copy image. And I'll go back to Photopea, and I'll just paste it. And there it is, and it's a little bigger than our window right now, and that's okay. And I'll leave as much sky as I can. You could even make it a little bit bigger if you want. Don't do too much resizing. And I'm going to keep the farm over here as much as I can. I guess I'll get as much over here as I can, because we're going to have a burger in the middle, or the burger could be over here on the left side, whatever you want to do with it. But I'll leave as much sky for the headline, because remember here I kind of put that stuff in the headline and put a big giant good looking burger on top of it. So that's what we're doing. So we have our background image. Now after you resize something both in Photoshop and Photopea, hit enter, and that'll okay it. Now the thing is that in Photopea they keep this transform handle, and it doesn't look like it's okayed yet. You can turn that off if you don't want to see it anymore. Those are the transform handles. Now if you're not moving it or anything, you don't have to worry about it, but I'm going to turn it off so we don't see that. So that's layer 1, and you could double click this and just call it, Barn BG. I'll just call it Barn BG right now. And you could lock it if you want, but it's fine right now. And I'm not going to do any image adjustments to it right now. It looks okay for a background. If you want to lighten it up, you could take the opacity and lighten it up just a little bit if you don't want it so harsh, but we could talk about that a little bit later. I'll leave it with the shadows and everything now. But let's get our burger in there. So I'm going to go back to coursework and I'll click on shackburger.jpg. Now I'll close up this other one. I don't need the farm open anymore. And I'll open up this burger and I'll right click and copy image and go back to Photopea and I'll paste my image. And before I do anything, I'll scale it up. Now here's where you could turn the transform handles back on. So I can scale this up and make sure to hold shift to make it nice and big. And I'm not going to make it bigger than my screen right now because I want to be able to silhouette around it and get rid of all the background. That's what we're going to do. So I'll make it pretty big so the image fills up the whole screen. Obviously that would depend on what kind of image you have, but we're going to get rid of the fries and the plate and everything and just have our burger here. So I'm going to get it as big as I can, but I don't want it in the background right now. Now you could, I mean, you can get it as big as you want, but we could scale it up a little bit later. So that's all I'm going to do right now is just scale it as much as I can. And I'm just going to hit enter or return on your keyboard. And then you could turn off your transform controls. And over here, I'll just put burger. And what we're going to do next is we're going to get rid of the background. Now in Photoshop, we use the quick selection tool, which made it really easy to select the burger and then make a layer mask. Now in Photopea, it's a little bit different. The tool's not as easy to use and the selection's not as easy to see, and they don't call it a layer mask, they call it a raster mask, but that's about it. But let's try it out. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'll use Command plus and zoom into my burger, and what I'm going to try to do is select my burger. Now, worst case scenario, you could always just kind of make a selection around it, but we'll see how this quick selection tool works. Now, where is this quick selection tool? Let me go under here, and here's the magic wand, and I'm holding down on this right corner, and I'll use quick selection. And you can see my cursor right here, it's kind of small. If you want to make it bigger, use the right bracket, the one after your letter P on your keyboard, the one on the right side. And I'm going to go bigger and make a bigger selection here. And what I want to try and do is select my burger. And I'm just going to click and just keep clicking. Now it's hard to see on Photopea. Photoshop, it's a lot easier. This is one of the downsides. And you can see it's getting some background and things like that. So I'd have to hold Option. And it's getting my fries and things like that. So I'm just going to click in here, and it's really hard to use in Photopea, but if you could see really close, it is getting around my burger. It's getting some fries over there, and there's a selection down here. You can see the selection going around it. So if you have any problem, just go Command D, go select, deselect, Command D. So if you have any problem, you know, it looks ridiculous, so you can't see anything, but I'll just click in the bun and just kind of move out a little bit and kind of move down. And just try to, it's selecting areas that are similar in color and kind of blocking them out based on where there's high contrast. So I'll go in here, I'll get as much of the bun as I can. And here you can see it jumped out again. So I'll have to hold Option and go in. Like I said, it's a lot easier in Photoshop. I'm holding Option or your Alt key. And now I have a selection going around my burger. It's getting some things out here, but that's okay. And again, if you have any problem, you could probably just use your lasso and just go around it and do it roughly. And I'll see what happens right now. I have a selection of these pixels on my burger layer. And what I'm going to do is go to Layer and go to Raster Mask. Now in Photoshop, they call it a layer mask. I'm going to go to Raster Mask and I'm going to say Reveal Selection. And that doesn't look too bad. What it did is, here's the mask. And I'm going to alt click on this. That's what it did. It made a mask based on my selection. And you can see it's not perfect. But what that does is the black pixels hide everything that I want hidden and the white pixels reveal. And the nice thing about that, instead of just using an eraser, is if I screw it up, I can put stuff back. So if I didn't have anything, if I cut off some of the burger like I did right here, what I can do is I could go to my paintbrush and I'll go down here and I'll click on this little black and white thing and I could switch these. See this black and white thing down here? It's really hard to see. And you could even hit the X key. The X key will make them go back and forth. Now when black is on top, that's the foreground. That means you're going to paint with black. So I'm going to take my brush here. Now also, before you paint with your brush, I'm going to turn the hardness down because I don't want it really hard. I want a little bit of a soft edge on it. So I'm going to do that. I'll take it down to maybe 75 or so. And I'll click over here to get that palette to go away. And I want to make it bigger, so I'm going to go up again using my right bracket, the square bracket. And what you can do if you want to hide stuff, you just kind of paint. And if I zoom in here, I just want to show you what it looks like with that softer edge. See, it's a little bit softer. I don't want it blurry. I don't want a blurry edge, but I also don't want a real hard edge that looks like it's, you know, cut out with a pair of scissors or something like that. And when it's superimposed over top of another background, you won't notice it as much. Now, I could turn off this and see what things look like that. I could turn off the visibility of barn background, and I'll just kind of cover up some of the stuff. What I'm actually doing is I'm painting on this mask, and you can see there's a dotted line around the mask. I'm painting with black, and that's getting rid of everything. Now I'm going to zoom out to make sure I don't get rid of my lettuce there. I have some lettuce, and I'm just going to kind of go back. Now if there's more stuff there and I think, well, what happened? There's things that went away. I could hit my X key and it'll switch this and it'll paint with white, and I could bring some stuff back. And there's some lettuce coming back. I could bring stuff back. Now you might say, well, that's deleting the work I did. But the way it was may have not been a good silhouette. So I'm going to make my brush smaller, go in here, and just kind of tweak this. Now, I accidentally did it with white, so make sure you hit your X key, and now I'm going to paint with black. And I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to make my brush smaller. Now, as you need to make straight lines, what you could do is you could click and then hold Shift, and it'll kind of connect where you started. Click, and then if I hold my Shift key, it can make a straight line from when you started. So I'm going to go in here, and if you want it a little softer, you could take it down. If it's a little too harsh on the edges, you could go in here. Remember, the smaller the brush it is, the harder it's going to be too, because you're taking that softness and you're making it on a small brush. So I'm going to go around here, and I guess I'll go around my lettuce. I'll hold Shift. Again, I'll click, hold Shift, click, hold Shift. I guess that's part of it here. And I'm just kind of getting rid of some of this stuff. Now I'll make my brush bigger. And I'm just silhouetting here, getting rid of things. I'll move down. Now there's some onions sticking off. If I don't want that, I could kind of go in here. Maybe I'll just keep the lettuce. And I mean, onions, people pull the onions off anyway, most of the time. And I'll kind of go in here and just kind of trim this out a little bit. And you could always make your brush smaller. I'm using my left bracket, the one right next to the P key, to go in here. And I could even go smaller. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but this is silhouetting. This is kind of removing background. I'll make my brush bigger now to go down here. And I shouldn't have to do a whole lot of this. In Photoshop, it was a little easier because the quick selection did a little bit better job. This is probably the weakest part of Photopea, is the quick selection. And the way the selections appear, they seem to be a little hard to see. And here I have some kind of edges here that are a little dark, so I'm going to try and smooth it out a little. I don't need these edges to be so harsh. I'm going to go up here, go around. All right, so I'll click here, I'll hold Shift, and kind of go around here a little bit. And that helps me go around a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, even if I go little straight lines. Just if you try to just stay along the bun, I'm just holding Shift and going around, trying to get rid of any of that kind of dark that's there. But depending what you do, the dark may not matter in front of the barn. Now, if it's looking kind of angular, just go in with your brush and kind of smooth it out. And actually, soft areas occasionally will kind of help it a little bit. So I'll go around here, and let's see what's going on here. Now, I don't know if I missed any here. I'm just going to go down and kind of do that. I'll click here, hold Shift, go up, go around a little. Now, I might have lost some stuff here, so I could always hold my X key and see if I could bring back some stuff. And there's not much to bring back. So I'll hit X again, and now paint with black and get rid of that stuff because I didn't really need it that much. And I'll fill in this part with white. So down here it's painting with black right now, so it would get rid of stuff. So I'll hit X and bring it back. It's bringing in some kind of in-between stuff there. And I'm not sure what's in between up here. There's some cheese, I guess, under the bun. And that looks okay. Some stuff here behind here. Now there's, I guess, cheese or whatever. They may be the fries. So I'm going to hit X again, use the paint with black, just kind of remove some of that stuff. Go around the edges so it's a little softer around the edges. I just don't want those hard edges. Same thing up here. I'm going to use X and paint with white and kind of bring some stuff back a little, just ever so slightly. I just don't want that real hard edge there. And I'll go around the top of this. You could go the other way too. I could hit X and paint with black, and you could kind of trim off some of this so it softens that edge. That might even look better to get rid of some of that edge there. So it kind of softens it, and it'll kind of blend into the background better. Now to move around, when I'm zoomed in here, to move around, hold your space bar and get this hand, this Mickey Mouse hand, and then move over. That way you don't have to scroll or anything. And I'm going to go around here. And again, if you ever have an intro to computing, we do this with dog soccer, where we silhouette a dog and then put them in front of a soccer goal. That's kind of what we're doing. Now we're trying to be nice and neat with this, going around, but you get the idea. And again, I think the quick selection and some of this stuff is a little easier in Photoshop. For free, this isn't too bad. So there's my burger. And then if you put on the background again, it doesn't look too bad. Maybe it looks a little straight over here. I need to round that off. I'm going to go over here and check out the bun and maybe paint with white. So I hit X, so white's in front, and I'll kind of, just see what's here at the bun, see how it looks. Maybe I'll just reveal some and then hit X and then go in and just kind of take out a little bit, just so it doesn't look so straight on that edge. And it'll probably look better from far away. And there's my burger. And now I want to put my transform controls on, and I want to make it bigger. Now, keep in mind that we used a layer mask, or raster mask as I call it, and it's still there. So you can make it permanent if you want, but I'll just leave it there for now. I'll bring in my burger right here, and I'll leave a little spot for my logo over here. Now, if you want to make your burger look even better, I don't know if we have to. It's pretty nice in terms of its light and dark, but you could even go to filter, and I'm going to go to sharpen and do unsharp mask, and I'll move this over so I can see what's going on. Normally we wouldn't do a lot of sharpening, but I'm going to increase it. Normally we go to like 1.2, and guess what? Nothing's happening. Did you notice nothing's happening here? That's because I'll X out of here, because I'm on top of the mask, not the image. So I was sharpening the mask. So I want to make sure I go here and go on the image itself, the layer part, not the mask part. So I wasn't doing that on purpose, but you might make that same mistake. So make sure you go here. And now if I go to filter and I go down to sharpen, unsharp mask, you'll see it look a lot different now. Now you can see it's really getting sharp in there. If I turn this on and off, it's really getting sharp. Now I probably don't even need that much. I'll probably put it like a 100 some. The radius is usually less when we work with regular images, but because we're trying to make our product really stand out, I'll put it up to like 4 and really make it pop, so people look at it and go, wow, I really want to eat that burger. And then I'll hit OK. And I'll zoom out and see what it looks like. And again, if you want to tone down the barn a little bit, I'll go on the barn layer and I'll go to image adjustments and I'll use levels. Now, what levels do is they adjust your darks, your highlights, and your midtones. And basically, if you bring these in, if you make the darks darker and your lights lighter, it makes it higher contrast. And if you make your midtones lighter, that'll kind of tone it down a little bit. So I'm just going to tone down the midtones just a little bit there. I don't need to make it any brighter. I don't need to make this brighter. I'm just going to do that on my background right now, just to make the barn look a little lighter and make this pop a little bit. And I'll hit OK. And another thing I could do, I did this with Photoshop, is this barn image, I moved this down a little bit and I wanted more room for the sky, and I used something called liquify on Photoshop. Now I'm not sure how this works with Photopea. I don't think I ever tried it, but they do have filter liquify. So let me see how it works. And the way it works is I basically make the brush bigger here and you just push up the sky. Actually, this works perfect. This works just like Photoshop. And it's better than trying to copy and paste parts. It just kind of stretches out images. It's used for distortion a lot, but it's nice for an area like this to really push up the sky without trying to clone the sky or copy and paste parts of the sky. Because believe it or not, skies, even though they look like just one color, there's a lot of little tones in there. So just stretching this out in a liquid kind of fashion. Now I don't want to do it over here, but it swirls pixels around. But when you do it with the sky, it works really good. So I'll hit OK. And then that's it. It kind of stretched that out. So that looks pretty good. So this is kind of my main image I have here. And I'm going to do a little bit more with it. But I think I'll take a break here because the video is probably getting long because I took a long time to be silhouetting it. Let me take a break here. And for part 2, we'll kind of finish this up. We'll save it as an image and then we'll start working in Gravit. So let me stop here. But also make sure you do this. Make sure you go File, Save as PSD. And what it does now, the new version of Photopea, it'll actually let you save it down to your computer, normally it would just put it in your downloads is where it's right now, but you could put it anywhere. So you could put it on your desktop, whatever. I'll go into fall 2021. I happen to have a folder for GRD 131. I'm just putting it in notes right now, but you could put it anywhere you want, or you could leave it in your downloads, and it'll save this PSD. So I'm going to save it for now. That way it's saved because it does not save it in the cloud. And that way, if you closed it, you could reopen it. So I'll do that for now. And I'll even close it. In part 2, I'll open it up just to show you how to open it up and then finish this off. See you in part 2.